Hello, welcome to my channel. I've come to understand that some people, they don't understand that when you have hens, female chickens, and you don't have a rooster, that they don't understand that the hen naturally lays eggs and that it's not a baby chicken. It's just part of the process. Unless you have a rooster to fertilize the eggs, they're never going to hatch. So we have a lot of hens, but we don't have a rooster, but we go collect eggs every day. So I found this and I was reading it and I thought I would share it with you. So welcome to my channel and I hope you enjoy this. So this is called egg grading and it's found on a Georgia website, and it says how the egg is made, and I've got a few tabs. The reproductive system of the hen is divided into two main parts, the ovary and the oviduct. The ovary, when the pullet chicken is first hatched, it contains up to 4,000 tiny yolks when it's first hatched. Each of these yolks is within a sac or follicle. Each yolk is separate from the others. All of these little sacs, each containing the yolk, form a cluster like grapes. The cluster is attached to the middle part of the back about midway between the neck and tail. When the hen is grown, if she is healthy and well fed, the yolks start developing. The yolks go through several stages of development, and there are yolks of various sizes within the cluster. Normally, one yolk matures at a time, and when it is mature, it is released by a rupture in the sac. The yolk then falls into the body and is picked up by the funnel of the oviduct. The oviduct is a long tube about 2 1/2 feet long, containing glands which give out fluid that helps complete the making of the eggs. As the yolk passes through the oviduct, the white and the shell is added. Fertilization would take place if it occurred in the oviduct, but you'd have to have a rooster to do that. When the egg is first laid, it is at its best as far as quality is concerned. With the possible exception of cleaning the shell, man can do nothing to improve the quality of the egg, but he can do a lot to retain this quality as long as possible. And we don't like to clean the shells because it has a protective membrane on the shell that makes the egg last longer, and unless the egg's like really dirty or something, which usually they come out and they look perfectly clean, but you can see it wet and shiny. And I think I have it in one of my videos right after, I know I do, I'm not sure if I posted it yet or not, but you can see it's, if you're right there when they lay the egg, you can see how it's all wet and shiny, and then it dries and you can see that protective membrane that helps the egg last longer. Okay, so let's see. It is important that everyone handling the egg, from the hen to the pen, do his job to retain this quality. This includes flock owners, trucks, candlers, merchants, and cooks. There are 4 parts of an egg. The yolk, which has 4 parts and constitutes approximately 31% of the total weight of the egg. The white, or albumen, which consists of 4 distinct layers and constitutes about 58% of the weight of the egg. Water is its major component. The layers are the calciferous layer, which is continuous, and the calcite layer, which hold the yolk in place. The inner thin layer, the firm or thick layer, and the outer thin layer. Shell membranes, which are tough and fibrous and are composed chiefly of a protein similar to that which is in hair and feathers. There is an outer shell membrane and an inner shell membrane. There are only about 24 10,000ths. They are only about 24 10,000ths of an inch thick. So tiny. These separate to form the air cell. the shell, which has 3 layers and is approximately 1/11 of the egg. Immediately after the egg is laid, it begins to lose quality. Even if it is removed from the nest, cooled, packed, and marketed promptly, when processing and grading eggs, certain steps are necessary to maintain eggs at the highest level of quality. Some of the steps to be taken include gathering eggs frequently, at least 3 times a day, handling eggs carefully to prevent breakage, cooling the eggs promptly and storing them under optimum conditions of temperature and humidity, packing the eggs in clean, cool packing materials, packing clean eggs separately from dirty eggs. Eggs are not required to be washed if they are clean. However, even with good farm management, a certain percentage of dirty eggs will be produced. Producers must bear in mind that a dirty egg covered with bacteria may become contaminated from the bacteria if it is mishandled. This is possible because the eggshell has 6,000 to 8,000 pores in it. A washing solution that is colder than the egg, which is bad, causes the egg content to contract and allows bacteria to be drawn through the shell. But you don't want to wash it in really hot water and cook it either. Washing should be done in a manner that will minimize the possibility of bacteria entering the shell. Keeping temperature and humidity at optimum levels retard loss in quality. The processed eggs must be held at 45 degrees or below. Precautions should be taken to prevent eggs from sweating, condensation, or moisture form on the shell, as this allows bacteria to grow. The United States Department, hold on a second. There we go. It says the temperature should be at least 20 degrees warmer than the egg. So, okay, so I just wanted to show you that it says that rinse the eggs under warm water. You don't want it hot though. Warm tap water will draw any dirt and bacteria from the shell. Cold water can cause bacteria to go below the surface of the eggshell. A lot of people would just get like a thing, like a sponge with a rough side and just rub it off. But this tells you in a bowl, add water that is warmer than the egg. Dip your egg into the water and lightly wipe them clean. Rinse the egg under running water. Gently dry your egg. Refrigerate immediately. Anytime you wash eggs, you have to refrigerate them immediately. If you don't wash them, you can leave them on the counter because they have that protective film. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think you can leave them on the counter as long as you don't wash them for up to 2 weeks and use them. But if you wash them, you have to put them in the fridge right away. But they recommend that you take them and put them in the fridge. If you don't wash them and you put them in the fridge right away, they're good for, I think, up to 3 months. Whereas if you wash them and put them in the fridge right away, I think they're only good for up to 2 months. But I know they're good. And don't quote me on that. But I just know that they're good for longer if you don't wash that protective membrane off of them. Because anytime we have eggs, if one of them comes out and it's dirty and we wash it, then we wash it and put it in the fridge right away, and then we keep those and eat those. We don't, ever give those to other people. But okay, so where were we? The USDA and the Georgia and the GDA recognize three grades of eggs, double A, and B. Eggs that do not meet these grades are considered a loss. The grade of an egg is based on the condition and the quality of the shell and the contents of the egg. The color of the shell has no effect on the quality of the egg and is not a factor in grades or standards. However, brown eggs are more difficult to classify as to interior quality than white eggs. And we have some of our eggs are light blue. And we have brown eggs, and then we have like really light brown eggs. The best way to determine the quality or grade of an egg is to break it open and look at it. But then you can't put it in an egg carton to sell it. This is not practical. So we use the next best method, and that is to place the egg on a strong beam of light and study the inside appearance of the egg to determine the quality. This is called candling. Okay, so practically normal. This shell is of usual shape of an egg, of good even texture and free from rough areas or thin spots. Some slight ridges and rough areas or thin spots that do not affect shell strength and texture are permitted. Slightly abnormal. This shell may be slightly unnatural in shape and slightly faulty in texture or strength. It may show ridges but not thin spots. Abnormal. This shell may be misshapen or faulty in texture and strength, may show pronounced ridges, thin spots, or roughed areas. Checked or cracked. An individual egg with a broken or cracked shell, but the shell membrane is not broken, therefore the contents of the egg are not leaking out. Leaker. Shell and membrane are broken and contents can leak out or are leaking out. And anytime we get an egg like that, I usually just throw it on the ground and the dog eats it. We have a dog that loves eggs, and that doesn't happen very often. But air cell, regular. This cell maintains a fixed position in the egg and shows a fairly even outline. Free air cell, moves freely to uppermost point in the egg as it is rotated slowly. Bubbly air cell. The air cell has been ruptured and results in one or more separate air bubbles. Yolk. Well-centered. This yolk occupies center of egg and moves only slightly as the egg is turned. Fairly well-centered. This yolk is not more than a quarter of the distance from its normal central position towards the ends of the eggs and swings not more than a half of the distance toward the sides of the egg. The sides as the egg is turned. Off-center. This yolk is distinctly above or below center and swings close to the sides of the eggs as it is turned. There are four main points or factors that are studied in determining the grade of the eggs. These are the shell, air cell, yolk, and white or albumin. All of these factors are important and all must be considered in determining the grade. One thing to remember in grading in an egg is no matter how high the grade is on three of these factors, if it falls down in the fourth factor, the egg must be put in the grade it falls to on the fourth factor. The shell. Shell shape, texture, and cleanliness should be judged in bright ambient light prior to candling. Checks may also be observed at this time. However, blind checks must be observed under a candling light. Frequently, a bubbly air cell in a fresh egg will indicate a blind check. In grades AA and A, the shell must be cleaned and unstained. In grade B, the shell must be clean but may be stained up to 1/32 of the area of the shell is localized, or 1/16 if scattered. In grades AA and A, the shell must be practically normal in shape and texture. In grade B, the shell may be abnormal. All three grades must have unbroken or unchecked shells. The air cell. The air cell is formed when the outer shell membrane separates from the inner shell membrane. When an egg is first laid, it has no air cell, but as it cools, the shell membranes separate and the air cell is formed. As the egg breaks down in quality, the air cell grows in size. In other words, the higher the quality of the egg, the smaller is the air cell. You usually find the air cell at the large end of the egg when it is candled. It should be regular in its outline and remain stationary. Sometimes the shell membranes are damaged and the air cell floats around as the egg is turned in front of the light. This does not lower the grade. The air cell in a grade AA may not exceed 1/8 of an inch in depth, unlimited movement, and free or bubbly. The air cell in a grade A may not exceed 3/16 of an inch in depth, unlimited movement, and free or bubbly. The air cell in a grade B may be over 3/16 of an inch in depth, unlimited movement, and free and bubbly. The yolk. The yolk should be in the center of the egg. The white and two small white cords called calzae help, which usually a lot of people call it calzae, help to keep it in the center, or calzae. There's usually not. Anyway, as the egg loses quality, the white and the calzae loses its ability to keep the egg well centered. As the egg loses quality, the yolk also absorbs water from the white, causing the yolk to enlarge and flatten out. When the egg is held to the candling light, the higher the grade of the egg, the harder it is to see the outline of the yolk. As the yolk enlarges and moves more freely, the easier it is to see. In a grade double egg, the yolk is only slightly defined and practically free from defects. In a grade A, the yolk is fairly well defined and practically free from defects. In grade B, the yolk is plainly visible, enlarged and flattened, and may have clearly visible germ development, but no blood development. The yolk may show other serious defects that do not render the egg inedible, such as a small blood or meat spot or double yolk. And usually you can tell when we have one that's a double yolk because the egg is really big and I can't get it in the egg carton. And if I do get it in the egg carton, I can't really close it. Every now and then I'll be able to close it, but usually not. So I usually just tell my husband to eat those. Germ development may show up as a dark spot on the yolk, a circular dark area near the center of the yolk shadow, or as a ring of blood on the yolk. Once it shows blood development, the egg is a loss. The white or albumen. The white is made up mostly of water. When we candle an egg, we can't see the white, but by studying the position and movement of the yolk, we determine the condition of the white. In a grade AA, the white is clear and firm. In a grade A, the white is clear and reasonably firm. In grade B, the white is weak and watery, and small meat or blood spots may be present. These blood or meat spots must not be more than 1/8 of an inch in size in aggregate and must not be due to germ development. Blood or meat spots are made when a portion of the reproductive organ sloughs off during the production of the egg, or the egg is fertilized and the germ cell begins development. And none of ours are fertilized. Candling procedures. When hand candling, the grater should always have clean, dry hands to avoid staining the egg. In order to obtain a proper view of the egg while candling, it is necessary to have the contents of the egg spinning within the shell at the time of viewing. The content of the egg can be set in motion by a movement of the hand and wrist in an arc of about 180 degrees. And 360 degrees is like a full circle, so 180 degrees is like a half a circle. Stopping the hand motion at the end of the arc without moving the hand or body permits the contents of the egg to spin freely. The long axis of the egg should be held at a 45-degree angle to the aperture of the candlelight. The thumb and index fingers should be on opposite sides of the shell without obstructing the view of the grater. Consider each factor of the egg separately. These factors are shell, air cell, yolk position, and condition of the white. A grater must learn to develop speed and skill in handling the egg through practice. He must develop speed without sacrificing accuracy. The first view the candler gets as he or she turns the egg is usually the view that most accurately tells the true quality. Chances are, if a candler makes a decision on a slower, longer view, the egg will be put in a lower grade than it belongs. When the eggs are returned to the carton, they should be placed carefully, not dropped, and always packed with the small end down. Which I think a lot of people don't know that. So, and there's the weight class. Okay, the label should be affixed at the time of candling and packaging. The label must be at least 2 inches by 4 inches on a case, and both case and carton should have letters not less than 1/4 of an inch. And sometimes you might see on a case somebody might put ungraded on there. Sometimes people handwrite on there that when they do farm fresh eggs in different areas, they'll write ungraded. When eggs are sold in cartons, the cartons must show the date, especially if they're giving them to friends or family, they just let them know. When eggs are sold in cartons, the cartons must show the date packed or an expiration date which shall not exceed 45 days from the date packed, and the grade and the size, together with the name and the address of the packer and safe handling instructions. The state of origin must also be given. Dates for egg cases. So then it talks about dating them. And pack date means the date the eggs were washed, candled, and packed. So if I put eggs in a carton, a lot of times I'll just write the date on there that I put them in the carton, which is the date. The day that we get we'll just go out there and we get them. The chickens lay about a dozen eggs a day. We'll put them in I have a white egg basket and a black one. And I have stuff in there to keep them from breaking and rubbing and stuff. So I go get the eggs and I check a couple of times a day and I go get the eggs and then I put them in the carton and I immediately write on the carton that day. Why don't I put them in the carton and then I write the date. Sometimes I wait till the end of the day to put them in the carton. And I write on the date that they were put in the carton. And then the next day I write the date, because otherwise I can't tell which eggs were laid which day if I don't, because I'll get confused. But usually we get rid of our eggs like within a day or two. They're gone. They're not even in the house anymore, unless they're the ones that we're going to eat, like the double yolk ones or something. So if we don't have a place that they're going that day, I'll put them in the fridge and we'll keep them and eat them over time, but usually they're gone the same day. So this gives you examples of putting the date on them and things like that. And you can pause this and read it if you want to. It says like sell by June 10th. A pack date shall be the use of an open date with no words, numbers. See, and when I write it on there, I write it where I can see it for me. I'll just write, because I don't want to not know. So I write it right away just for myself. There's a little place you can find it other than this. So eggs must be transported, stored, and displayed at an ambient temperature of 45 degrees Fahrenheit or below. And we have thermometers for our fridge and freezer to check our temperature of our fridge and our freezer, and our deep freezers as well, because I like to know what the temperatures are. Just personal. It's just a personal thing. I like to know they're working right. So, and then we'll look at some other ones. And what I didn't read, you can pause this and read it if you like. This one is at Penn State, and it says and it has some pictures. The reproductive system of the female chicken is in 2 parts, the ovary and the oviduct. Unlike most female animals, which have 2 function ovaries, the chicken usually has only 1. The right ovary stops developing when the female chick hatches. The left one continues to mature. The ovary is a cluster of sacs attached to the hen's back about midway between the neck and the tail. It is fully formed when the chicken hatches and contains several thousand tiny ova, each ovum within its own follicle. As the female reaches maturity, these ova develop a few at a time into yolks. And then it has this picture, but they're smaller than that. So as the ovum develop and get larger, I don't think that's the actual size anyway. I've never seen inside the chicken, so you can see the stigma line, clear line on each ovum. This is where the egg yolk is released. ovaries and oviduct, yolk to complete egg. On the surface of every egg yolk, there can be seen a tiny whitish spot called the blastodysk. This contains a single female cell. If sperm is present when the yolk enters into the infundibulum, a single sperm penetrates the blastodysk, fertilizing it, and the blastodysk becomes a blastoderm. Technically, the blastoderm is a true egg. Shortly after fertilization, the blastoderm is divided into 2, 4, 8 or more cells. The first stages of the embryonic development have begun and continue until the egg is laid. Development then subsides until the egg is incubated. When sperm and ova unite, this process is called fertilization. After fertilization, the egg can develop and become a chick. Only fertilized eggs grow into chicks. The chicks grow and become adult birds, and none of our eggs are fertilized because we don't have a rooster. And some people have roosters, but they don't keep them they keep them in separate. The fencing is separate a little bit. So, and here's some more pictures. So the oviduct is a tube-like organ lying along the backbone between the ovary and the tail, and a mature hen is approximately 25 to 27 inches long. The yolk is completely formed in the ovary. When a yolk is fully developed, its follicle ruptures, releasing it from the ovary. It then enters the infundibulum, the entrance of the oviduct, see below. All of the other parts of the egg are added to the yolk as it passes through the oviduct. The calzide, abulum, shell membranes, and shell are formed around the yolk to make the complete egg, which is then laid. This complete cycle usually requires a little more than 24 hours. About 30 minutes after the egg is laid, another yolk is released, and the process begins all over again. Development takes place as follows. So then it shows right here the mature yolk in yolk sac ovary right here. And then it shows the magnum right here where it goes through. And then it shows the egg is formed in the uterus. And then there's a vent, it says. So the hen's reproductive tract, note the ovary and the infundibulum are parts of separate organs. So, oh wow, they have it broken down. So length of the part 2 inches, 13 inches, 4 inches, 4.2 inches, and 4 inches. So then it picks up the yolks, and it could be fertilized, but we don't have a hen. We don't have a rooster, so none of our hens have fertilized eggs. So then it says 40 to 50% of the white laid down thick albumin, 10% albumin shell membrane laid down, shape of egg determined, 40% of albumin shell formed, pigment of cuticle laid down, egg passes through it and is laid. So, and here's another photo so that you can see. And you can find other things. This one I found online, and it's very technical. So I'm not going to read all of this. But if you search for this, you should be able to find it. They have a lot of articles on the internet. So you can find this on Poultry Science. So and this says YS stands for yolk sac. The avian embryo relies solely on nutrients derived from the yolk, albumin, and shell to support its growth and development. For this review, we will use the term yolk sac. YS as the yolk contents plus the YS tissue which surrounds the yolk. The YS tissue is often called the YS membrane, but it is not just a membrane, but it is a multifunctional tissue that plays an important role in the nutrient uptake, performs multiple metabolic functionalities, and is the first line of defense against pathogens. So this is pretty interesting reading. But like I said, it's pretty technical, so I just wanted to show you that this is available on the internet. And I'll scroll through a little bit of it in case you're interested in pausing it and reading it. You can. So, and it has some pictures. I like the pictures, honestly, so that you could see it. But I find it so interesting that a lot of people, you know, you have a lot of people, especially young people and stuff, and they don't want to eat eggs because they think that the eggs are baby chickens. So, and we don't, you know, a lot of people, if they aren't taught, they don't grow up on a farm, they don't grow in an area near farms, they haven't been around chickens, they don't know. They just see the eggs in the store and they've seen baby chickens, so they think that all the eggs are going to grow to be baby chickens, so that they think when they're eating eggs that they're baby chickens, even though our eggs will never be baby chickens. And I thought, well, that's interesting, and I'm done scrolling through that. You can look for it if you want to, but maybe I'll scroll through a little bit more. But yeah, so you know, if you live on farms, or if you you can order chickens to lay eggs, and then when you order them, or you could go, like we have a Tractor Supply where we can go buy baby chicks, and they've got papers there that explain what kind of chickens they are, what kind of baby chicks they are, and if they're really good at laying eggs and things like that. So we have the Easter eggers, and we have the Rhode Island Reds, and my favorite is the Easter eggers. I like the Easter eggers. The Easter eggers, ours are smaller. They're smaller chickens, and they're multicolored, and they're pretty. And the eggs that they lay are usually like a light blue, but they look like green to me. And I like them. They take up less room in the pen. Whereas, and then they started laying first. We got them last, and they started laying first. Whereas the Rhode Island Reds started laying next, and they're darker, and I do like them. But the Isa Browns that we got, they started laying last, and they're heavy set. A lot of them are they're a lot heavier set. They're bigger birds, the ones we have anyway. And I've read online about somebody that had Isa Browns, and they were living in California, and they were on a hill or something, and they had plenty of sunshine, and their Isa Browns didn't start laying. Our Isa Browns didn't start laying till they were between 35 and 36 weeks old this time. And a lot of times, like last time, but it's in the winter months. We got them, you know, they started laying in the winter months. I don't know if that matters, but it didn't affect the Easter eggers. They started laying, and we were feeding them all the same thing. And the Easter eggers started laying a long time ago. They started laying in November, and here it is January 20th, and our Isa Browns just started laying. But the Easter eggers started laying in mid-November. So, and then we got the Isa Browns, I think, towards the end of May. And when we got the Rhode Island Reds, and we got the Easter eggers, I think, at the very beginning of June, and they started laying in November. And the Isa Browns aren't laying till right a couple days ago, a few days ago. And the Rhode Island Reds have been laying for a little bit, but not near as long ago as that. Well, a couple of them started laying maybe in November, but over time. But even though it's winter months, I can tell, you know, they're all eating the same foods. They're drinking the same water. I like the Easter eggers the best. They were a little bit more expensive to purchase the Easter eggers than it was to purchase the Isa Browns and the Rhode Island Reds. But I love the Easter eggers. They're my favorites that we have. That's the three that we have. So the Easter eggers are my favorites. The Rhode Island Reds next, and the Isa Browns are my least favorites right now. But That's just personally, and I don't know which ones lay the most eggs through the most years, or how, some of them, I don't know if they're going to live to be 2 years old or 5 years old or whichever, but right now the Easter eggers are definitely my favorite chickens. So that's my personal opinion. Anyway, I hope this helped you, and I hope you enjoyed the video, because I just thought that I would share that with you anyway. And thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great day. Bye-bye. Please feel free to leave comments. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.